Hey guys, welcome back. So we got my dad's truck in here again, and as you can see, still nice and clean. He keeps taking care of it, but got to do some upgrades to it. So today we are going to be putting a 5-inch diamond eye exhaust on this truck. So there is nothing done to this truck yet for exhaust, except for the previous owner put a downpipe in. So we're going to go ahead and put this thing up on the lift, and we're going to go ahead and show you what's underneath, and we're going to try and take this exhaust out without destroying it in case it has to go back on for some reason at another time. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing up in the air. We'll show you the underneath, give you a game plan, and then show you what goes on in getting this 5-inch exhaust installed. So you can see we still have the factory exhaust on here, and we've got some bolts up here in the front. And you can see the aftermarket downpipe here goes up and around. So we won't have to mess with that. And we are going to be doing a fuel system on this truck, so look for a video coming up for that. As you can see, this is a little bit of an oil leak plus a whole bunch of fuel that it's dumping because the fuel pump is bad in it. So we will be doing that. But we're going to go ahead and try to get this whole exhaust system out of here, and still has the factory muffler on it. Looks like somebody did a crappy weld job on it back here, but try to get it out of here one piece. You can see the hangers are a little rusty, and this clamp is gone. It's been gone, so I don't think those are going to come apart, so there's no point even trying. But first thing we're going to have to do is get those two bolts undone up here on the collector, get those taken out, and then pop it all out of these hangers. Now they do make a special tool for these hangers, and you'll be seeing us use it here, which is going to be a lot nicer than trying to get them out without that. But we're going to go ahead and show you the exhaust we're going to be putting on here. We have a 5-inch diamond eye here. There is a up pipe in here there is a down pipe in here that we won't be using, but we do have all of the system here. Now this is the second rendition of this kit, I do believe. So it does have the funky bend in it here. The original kit didn't have this big long bend. It had a lot tighter bend. So we may have to modify the exhaust on the back of this. We'll find out once we get it picked up and put on the truck there. So we're going to go ahead and get started on taking this thing apart. All right, so with those two bolts undone there, this is no longer attached to the downpipe. So our next step is going to be, we've got to get all these hangers removed. So if you don't have one of these little tools, I highly suggest getting one because they make life a lot easier. So you can see that this is loose now. And then we're going to have to focus on the back here. So there's a couple hangers back there. You can see we got these rubber hangers started to come off. So when you get to this point, you might have to use a bar to get them the rest of the way, or spray a little bit of penetrating oil on them to get them the rest of the way off. Okay, so we got the rear hangers almost completely out. The one at the tailpipe is going to be kind of sucky because you can't get to it that well. So this guy here, because of the leaf spring orientation, the hanger tool doesn't work real well, so these are usually a pain to get out. So we're going to try and go ahead and get this thing out of here, and hopefully it'll come out. All right, that's good. Okay. So the only thing holding this thing up right now is the fact that it's still kind of hooked on the muffler hangers. So we're going to go ahead and wiggle those off. You can watch this tailpipe drop then. Okay, so now the exhaust is completely loose and free from the truck. Now we're just going to try and get it out. So you can see we got it out in one piece. We ended up having to jack the truck up just to get some more space between the axle and the frame. So you can get these out in one piece, but it's kind of a pain, but I just didn't want to cut it underneath the truck. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and start getting installed the exhaust here, and hopefully it'll go together pretty easy. All right, so your next order of business here is going to be putting the hangers in place that need to be in place. So you can take a little bit of penetrating oil or a little bit of lubricant, whatever you feel you want to use, spray it inside these holes. It'll make your life a lot easier when you go to put the clamps, hangers in. So we're going to go ahead and put this T in. Now you can see that this T can go either way here. So you want it to be long side on the frame rail side, because this pipe's going to want to hang as far to the driver's side as possible. This is why I say to put the penetrating oil on these, because these need to slide inside here. And that'll hold your tailpipe up. So then we can go ahead, we could actually build the tailpipe section and lay it in there if we wanted to, or you can start at the downpipe side and you can start there. What I usually do is I start with the back, build the tailpipe section, get it hung, because then that'll tell me what I need from here forward. Because if you start at the front and work your way back, this is kind of a constant. This is going to be here no matter what. So you want to make sure that you get the back built, and then you can kind of make the middle fit. Okay, so I just put a band clamp on there for now. Don't want to use a guillotine clamp because it doesn't give you any adjustability. That clamp isn't doing a whole lot, but it's putting a little bit of compression on it to help it keep from falling apart. Now we can go ahead and figure out which hanger goes here, which I do believe it is this one here. So we'll go ahead and get this guy put in here. Can you hold that, please? You can put it in a hanger if you wanted. Okay, so we got this hanging here. Now this is infinitely adjustable depending on how you clamp it. You can see that it will kind of move around, and we're going to have to do a bunch of adjusting on these to get this to where it really should be, because you kind of have to adjust this stuff as it goes. And like I said, this diamond eye kit is a second generation. It doesn't quite go over the axle like it should. They changed their material and they weren't able to get as tight of a bend on these. So it kind of sucks because you kind of get this funky tailpipe, but it works. It doesn't look too bad. You just gotta fudge around with it. But we're gonna go ahead and start working on the middle section now, because this kind of gives us an idea of where this pipe's gonna hang out. Now, I didn't take the directions out. It's fairly simple. Basically all you need is this diagram. So you have your cat delete pipe if you install it. You have a section of pipe and a section of pipe and a muffler if it has a muffler, or you just have the section of pipe. So basically you put your delete pipe in. Now, like I said, we're not doing the down pipe on this because it's already done. So you put your delete pipe in, and then you put your mid pipe in, and then you're going to go ahead and finish to see how far you need to be, and then you'll go ahead and you'll adjust that rear tailpipe section as needed. But the tailpipe section is the most important because that is the hardest one to fit in. You can shorten these up if they need to be shorter so that you're not interfering with the rear cross member. So we're going to go ahead and get this pipe put in up here and then figure out what we need in the middle. Okay, so you just want to make those snug. That way it stays on the socket, but it won't fall off. That way you have your range of adjustment to get the alignment correct. So you do have a hanger up here. You can use it. I don't know if they give you the hanger for it. I think they do. But that hanger is so close to the end of the downpipe that sometimes it makes it difficult. So we will be using this hanger in the middle here. So we're going to go ahead and grab the next section of pipe and get it stuck on here. So your intermediate pipe, there's a number on the label, there's a number on the pipe. If you'd like to hold that, please. Thank you. So on here, they kind of give you a diagram of the hangers, and sometimes it's not real clear. So you just kind of got to go off of judgment with these. So you want to hold the hanger up. So you want to hold the hanger up and be like, okay, is this where I want this pipe? So this looks to be where we want the pipe. It's lining straight up with the tailpipe section here. So we'll go ahead and slide this in the hanger. And put the clamp on. So as you can see, it wiggles, which is fine because the hanger here the pipe can rotate a little bit here. There's nothing holding it in the back. It's also not tight in the front. So now that we have this up here, we can go ahead and figure out our length in between. But before we do that, we need to make sure that we have the tailpipe section exactly where we want it, and we can go ahead and tighten it up. Because if we don't do that first, it won't give us a good accurate measurement between the tail of the pipe here, the tail of the pipe, and the beginning of the tailpipe. So you want these to line up very nicely and slide together, okay? So we need to make sure that this tailpipe is going to be exactly where we want it. Everything is loosely fit in here. This is what you want to do first. You don't want to tighten anything until you get everything that needs to be somewhere. So like the tailpipe here, you want to make sure that the tailpipe is going to be where you want it to be. You get it hung correctly, and then you can go ahead and match all this up. Now you do have a couple inches of space here that you can move this back and forth. You can also take the downpipe connection off here. You can slide it on and then put it up in also. But right now we're going to work on the tailpipe. So you can see that the tailpipe's hanging. All right, so we came back here and we disassembled this tailpipe assembly and we cut 1 inch off of the end of this, okay? Because in getting this to stay where we want it, it wants to hit the hitch, it wants to hit the leaf spring, it's not meshing correctly. So this pipe was completely buried into this pipe, so we had to take it apart, and then we cut it off. Then whenever you cut pipe like this, you always want to make sure that you hit the inside and the outside with a grinder or a sanding disc or anything like that, something to get rid of that burr so that it doesn't hinder you from putting it back together. Now, you might be thinking, you cut that inch off, now it's going to bury, it's not going to seat well in the other pipe. In reality, this pipe's bend is so radiused that tailpipe section will actually slide up in here a little bit farther, which is why we took the inch off. And even if it doesn't, you still have enough material here to clamp onto with your guillotine clamp to hold this together. Ideally, I like to use a butt joint type band clamp with a step in it, so it's meant for lap joints like this. If you use the compression style band clamp, it will give you the adjustability to let you tighten it up, loosen it up, tighten it up, loosen it up. Whereas a guillotine clamp, once you got it tight, it's tight, it's not coming off because it pinches it together. So we're going to go ahead and try to get this put back together and see if we can get it to seat a little bit nicer. Okay. So it's a little bit better, but not by much. Still wants to get into the leaf spring and also the hitch. But the space that we have here on the axle, let me grab another light here. So we have a hitch issue here. And can try to, the problem is whenever you're doing this, you have to be mindful of the rear axle travel and also the rear leaf spring travel and your front shock, or I guess it'd be your rear shock, but it's in the front there. So ideally, that's where I want the pipe, but it's still hitting that leaf spring. So the problem now is we are still touching the leaf spring and we are still almost touching the hitch here. Now, we do have an option here. It's not an option that I want to use, but we might be able to take and try to give this hitch a little bit of a tweak here, obviously with no heat. And hopefully that may solve the issue here. Try to get this hitch away from this tailpipe, which would let us get the tailpipe away from the leaf spring here. Now this truck does have 99-04A codes on it, so it may have a longer leading leaf spring here on the bottom, this helper leaf, whatever you want to call it. But that could be our issue at the moment. But this is ideally where you want this. You know, we're not hitting anything except for right in here. So let me see if I can try to maybe give this a little bit of a tweak with a wrench, try to get it away from this exhaust a little bit, which would help us move this over. So the other thing is, it's like we don't want to move it too far over because we could be getting into this pumpkin then, which is not what we want. Okay, so we need to make sure that we don't interfere with other stuff that's moving. All right, so we got a wrench on here, we got a cheater on here. Hopefully this will kind of bend out of the way a little bit. Like I said, we don't want to heat it and we don't want to cut it, but we're going to try and give her some flex here. Let's do it one more time. All right, let's see if that gave us any. That gave us a little bit. All right, loosen this up a little bit. So we gave that a little bit of bend, but it wasn't enough. However, that's not too bad right there. Now it's worse. Right at the bumper. Shooting right at the bumper. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. All right. I think we got it finally set up to where it should be. Looks like it's going to clear everything. We did end up having to, we bent this a little bit here. That's definitely given us the clearance that we're going to need. Have about the same clearance on the other side. That leaf spring should pass that up if this suspension were to droop down. And we're going to go ahead, I think, and tighten these clamps up and make sure it doesn't move. So I just snugged all them down. We don't want to tighten it down just yet in case we do end up having to move it. So we should clear this axle in its full movement. We're not hitting nothing here, as you can see. So now we can go ahead and concentrate on getting the front measured up and put in. So this is why I like to concentrate most of my effort on this tailpipe. This hitch is a little bit longer than, say, a Kurt brand hitch. So we did run into the problem with this being back here. However, shortening it up that inch up here on that other pipe, it keeps you from getting into the heat shield on the bottom of the bed. So you need that little bit of extra. Lets it bury that pipe down in the other one. That way you can get this pipe to sit up a little bit higher. That'll also give you a little bit of movement like this, which helps you keep it down away from that leaf spring. The tailpipe doesn't look too bad. Like I said, I wish that Diamond Eye would have gone back to their old supplier, or their old supplier wouldn't have changed. And then we would have had a much nice tighter radius here. So that's the only thing that sucks about the Diamond Eye system, is its radius here, but it is infinitely adjustable. So that's nice. You can kind of modify it a little bit like we did today. But we're going to go ahead and figure out what we need for the front here. And we'll go ahead and measure that pipe, get it cut, because I do believe it's going to be a cut pipe. And we'll get that installed, make sure everything is good and fit well, make sure the hangers are all nice and seated. And then we'll go ahead, tighten this thing up, and we'll call it a day. All right, so we're going to go ahead and lift this up. Need some air. You're going to need to put another piece of wood in there. So what you want to do is you want to get these lined up. Okay, so we have that hanger up there that we put on earlier. It isn't doing a whole lot. We may end up changing it to a shorter one. I think we have one shorter one. Yeah, so this one's shorter. So we'll probably end up changing that hanger out to this one. But for now, we need to get a measurement between these two pieces. And we'll get a measurement here, and they both need to be sleeved. Now, so that could pose a problem here. So we may end up having to cut this pipe here, and we'll get the sleeved one put in, and we'll get a measurement there, and then we'll go ahead and we'll cut this pipe, because this one's a straight piece here. It doesn't have the bell on it. So that's this pipe here. Now you can do it this way. You can hold it up like this. Make sure that this tailpipe piece is seated. Make sure it's good there, and you can come up here and put a mark on this front pipe, and that'll give you an accurate measurement without having to use a tape measure. That way you don't have to worry about making sure that you got the right measurement. It's a fit piece. It will go together. So we're going to go ahead and get a marker here. I'll hold this up, and we'll get it marked, get this piece off of here, and get it cut. So we're going to go ahead and hold this up here. We're going to keep it about 1/4 inch from being buried, and do the same thing over here. All right, so we got a mark on there. Now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll drop this piece of pipe back down. We'll get it out of its hanger, take it back to the bench here, and we'll put a mark all the way around it and cut it. So we got our piece of pipe in the clamp here. I got a vise that's big enough to hold 5-inch pipe. I think it'll do actually 6. So what you want to do, so we have adjustable hose clamp here. It gets pretty big, pretty small. So this is what I do with these. So you can pull it tight, and then you just flip this down, give it a little bit of a snug here. Okay. And basically what you want to do is you want to measure from your hose clamp to the end of your pipe, and that's just under 7 inches. And make sure you got the same thing on the other side. So this clamps a little out. So a hair under 7, and we are hair under 7. So once you're good with your measurement, give that a cinch with a screwdriver or a ratchet, and then you're going to take your marker and put a mark all around this. Take your marker, put a mark all the way around it. And go ahead and take your hose clamp back off. Now we did this the same way to cut the tailpipe section. Now you have a mark that's straight all the way around. All right. So then you can take this and you can cut it with a grinder. A lot of guys don't have a bandsaw. Like I don't have a bandsaw. If you had a bandsaw, you could just cut it with a bandsaw, which would be easier. So just go ahead and cut your line. So when you're done, you can take your grinder. If you have an air saw or an air sander, you can use it too, but we're going to use this. And make sure you deburr all your edges. I take my glove and run it around. I mean, obviously I have a leather glove on here and make sure that there's nothing sharp that's going to catch, because you're going to have that other pipe sliding over this and you don't want it to not go in. Now I had said before that this clamp was a little bit too long, so we're going to go ahead and pull it out of here. And we use this shorter one. As you can see, it is definitely shorter. We'll go ahead and put this guy in here. All right, we got that set in there. Go ahead and take our freshly cut piece of pipe. And go ahead and put it in the downpipe tailpiece. Just get it snugged up here a little bit loose. Okay, so this is just going to be make sure we got the right measurement here. You can see that will fit in there nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get these put together. So we might end up having to loosen this up a little bit. We're going to try not to, just try to spread it out and get it put in. So first order of business is going to be putting it into this one here, hopefully. So we got that slid in there. Now we'll try to spread this as much as we can, which looks like we're going to need a little bit more. So we might be able to slip it out of the hanger in the back instead of loosening anything. So we'll see if we can get away with doing that instead of loosening that up, since we spent so much time with it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take it off the downpipe in the front. We're going to slide the whole thing, take it off, slip it above, get this slipped on here, and then we should have enough room to get the downpipe and the flange there put together. So we're going to give that a shot here, and hopefully that will do it. Okay, so we're going to pull that off, watch it fall off. All right, you can see that we got it slid together there. Just gonna get this jack out of the way. Now we'll come over here, see if we can get this put together. And as you can see, proper measuring makes a big difference. You know, you can leave a little bit of gap in your bells and your slip joints there, and you can get a little bit of wiggle room with it. So now all this is fit together. We didn't have to mess with the tailpipe at all. So now we can go ahead, tighten our downpipe up, go ahead, put all of our clamps on and tighten them all down. So we'll start up here with the downpipe, make sure that we get these bolts put together here, and then we'll get all the other clamps put on and we'll start tightening stuff down. Now I didn't go hog wild with tightening those. I just wanted to take up the gap. That way there was no gaps in between those collars at all. So now we can go ahead, make sure that this hanger is where it needs to be. So that lets you move that a little bit, as you can see. So if you leave that ball and socket loose up there, let you wiggle it a little bit to move these hangers around, because you don't want to have that nice and tight just yet. So we'll snug this. That's good and tight there. So now we need to put a clamp and a clamp. We need one more clamp here. And then this guy is holding this tailpipe piece. So we got some other clamps here that we're going to have to put on. They're back here. I can get them. Now, your orientation of the clamp doesn't really matter. However, it's all in how you want your visual appeal to be. All right. So I don't like to see any of my clamps if possible. So I try to turn them so that you don't see them from underneath the truck. It's also good for anybody that's going to be working on the truck. You don't have those bolts sticking down hitting you in the head. So like this one here, there's nothing you can do about it because that's how the hanger's made. So now this one, with the drive shaft being where it is, you want to turn it up a little bit so that you can get in there, because otherwise it faces the drive shaft right on. So we'll go ahead and snug these down. Now I'm not going hog wild with these yet, just making sure that they're snug so that we can get them, make sure everything's good before we put a final tightening on. So that takes the wiggle out of it, kinda. And then we got one more to do up here in the front. So see, I can't get this one with the impact because of the drive shaft, so I'll have to get a little extension and possibly a swivel, but we should be able to make it with just an extension here. Okay. So everything's snug, okay? We still have some wiggle room and everything. Before we tighten everything completely up, the first place you want to tighten is the downpipe socket there. Make sure that that's tight because that needs to be completely seated. So make sure that you put that in first, and then you can go through, work your way down the line, and tighten all your clamps. Main thing is make sure your tailpipe hasn't moved before you started tightening anything. So I'm just going to do a quick check on that real quick, and then I will come back up here and we'll just start working our way back the truck. All right, so we went ahead and checked that rear tailpipe out, and it was moving all over the place. We tightened up the guillotine clamp, and it did nothing. Tightened it down, had it cranked on, the pipe still moved. So we went ahead and got some of these, okay? So these, I call them a lap joint band clamp. You can see there's a step in them there. So what these do is they go over the seams. You can see it here. And so we put one here, we put one here, We put one in the back here, and I know that one's hard to see, but I'll go ahead and show it to you when we're all done. But we use these instead of the guillotine clamps because, first of all, the guillotine clamps, they work most of the time, but they suck to use, they suck to install. And then whenever you have to do anything with the exhaust service-wise, you're looking at trying to get two pieces of pipe that have been physically deformed together. You can't get them apart. They don't come apart. You end up cutting them. So with a band clamp of this nature, you can actually take these apart, and as long as the pipes haven't rusted together, then they will come apart. Now, I have taken band clamps apart that have been on trucks for a couple years, on diesel trucks, and never had an issue. I have gotten them back apart without a problem, put them back together. So, you know, these are a nice service item. They do add probably $75 to your kit because, you know, you're going out and you're paying for these. They're stainless steel. You know, they're kind of like an upgrade, so to speak. But at the same time, too, you know, you can clamp that rear tailpipe section in, and then, like, if you need to move it, you can loosen it up. So you just loosen this up. You can spin it freely, tighten it back up again, and it'll stay there. You don't have to worry about that guillotine clamp, you know, deforming the pipe and it not wanting to move, and then you beating on it and stripping out the threads on the U-bolts. So we've gotten these three installed. We have this last one here to put in, so we're going to go ahead and put it in. So you just got to make sure your orientation is correct. So since we have this one all put together already, you know, we can just open it up and slide it over the pipe and put it together. Now, before I tighten this last one up, we're going to go ahead and tighten up this front one here. So that'll be the ball and socket for the downpipe. You have to go a deep well for that. All right. Now that that's tight, that'll pull any slack that's in here out. We can go ahead and finish this up. Now this exhaust is nice and snug. Make sure that it's not going to move. We can tighten this middle one up a little bit here. That's a lot better. That one's pretty good. And that one's pretty good too. So we tightened all this up and it kind of pushed that tailpipe a little bit. So I'm going to just loosen it up a little bit just on that back piece, and we'll go ahead and just make sure it's not touching anything. Okay, so that tailpipe was touching the hitch again. So loosened that up, just like I had said you'd be able to loosen it. Gave it a smack, and it got it out. So now that we tightened it, we'll check it one more time. So you still see there's a little bit of wiggle in this. So we're just going to hit these clamps some more. That is a good solid exhaust. So nothing spins. We'll make sure. Yeah, we should be good there. So I'll grab the camera here and grab a light, and I'll show you this whole exhaust here, and you can see exactly what we did under here. So you can see we oriented these clamps where they're out of the way. Obviously we can't move this one. And then we oriented this one, and you can see back here that these are tight on the downpipe. So running back here, you can see where this band clamp is for the tailpipe here. You can see that it's going to be nice and tight, and we have clearance on your shock. A little bit of clearance here on the strap. It's tight, but not hitting. Same back here. It's tight, but not hitting. And then we aren't hitting on the leaf spring over here, and we should be good and clear for suspension travel. So we'll give you a look at what it looks like back here. You see it's not too low, comes out at a good angle, and then doesn't stick out. So we're going to go ahead and put this thing down on the ground, and we'll get it started up and get you a clip. So here's a better view of what the tailpipe looks like. See, it's tucked up under there pretty nice. So we'll get a startup video of it here and get a good sound clip of it. So that covers a 5-inch diamond die exhaust install on one of these trucks. I do like the way these things sound. If you put a 6-inch tip on them, it does make it a little bit more mellow, but it can drone a little bit more. So we generally just leave the 5-inch alone, but it does sound better. You can hear the turbo a little bit more. Should improve a little bit of performance. But we're going to be doing some more stuff to this truck in some upcoming videos. Hopefully we'll be doing an e-fuel system. So keep your eyes out for that one. And thank you guys for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the subscribe button, and we'll try to keep pumping out OBS videos and some Ford videos for you guys. And if you have any requests on anything, just let me know. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.